morning. Good morning, B. How is it going?
Good morning. Going good. How you doing? Check
I'm
this out.
doing. I can't see what that says. Let me bring it in closer. Let me bring us in closer. Maybe that will help. Oh, Dudley family reunion. That reminds me, I have a shirt that I'm bringing to you today.
Yeah.
Yep, from this year.
Okay.
So
Okay. This is
yes,
our
yes.
family reunion. One of our pieces of apparel that we give during the family reunions, and this is an older one. So I just wanted to. I saw it on the in my closet today. I was like, let me go ahead and wear that and represent the family.
Yeah, I updated them a little bit. This year was our 40th consecutive. So
Wow,
just
that's
an
incredible.
amazing one this year, an amazing connections happened. So
That is awesome.
thankful for that. Thankful
Well,
for that.
welcome everybody. Welcome to the In the Season podcast. I think this is day 75, Mom. Am I right?
Day 75. Day
70.
75.
All right.
Miss Brenda says, good morning, everyone. I missed you all on yesterday. I was not feeling well, but feeling a little better today. Thank you, Miss Brenda. Hope you get better. Let us know if we can bring you some tea.
Yeah, I hope you feel better. What you dealing with, Miss Brenda? You got a little cold or what's going on? Let us know in the comments. But welcome everybody to the In the Season podcast. This is our 75th day in a row of doing this show. We appreciate you guys coming through and rocking with us. Let us know where you're coming from. If you're on Instagram Live or you're on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, thank you for being here. Or if you're tuning in later. Um, we are going through Daily Motivations for African American Success by Dennis Kimbro. Every single day, we read a passage out of this. We read a quote out of this from an African American through history, and we read the affirmations and carry the affirmation with us throughout the day. So thank y'all for joining us. We read through this every single day. If you haven't gotten the book, please go get the book. We tell you this every single day, even though we shouldn't have to if you've been with us all the time. If you got the book, please let us know in the comments. Say, yeah, I got it. If you don't, say I'm still working on it. All
Mhm.
right. Let's hold each other accountable. Okay. But Daily Motivations for African American Success will help you focus on the thoughts, attitudes, and deeds that will lead to the achievement of your true goals. Not the fake ones, but the true ones. And 300 short, powerful motivations, one for each day of the year. Dennis Kimbro, author of the popular Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, leads us to discover how to use the present moment and our own gifts to transcend labels, cultivate a positive attitude, become wise enough to know when to say yes and when to say no, and to look inward for answers to life's challenges. So each motivation begins with words of wisdom from such distinguished and celebrated African Americans as Malcolm X, Marion Wright Elderman, Whoopi Goldberg, Charlene Hunter Galt, Bill Cosby, Carl Rowan, Mother Hale, Reverend Leon Sullivan, and hundreds of others. This treasure trove of practical inspiration will give you fresh encouragement every day of the year. What it teaches will last you a lifetime. All right, Mom. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it short and sweet.
I
Yeah.
say let's jump right into it unless someone has something to give us that from yesterday. I did post the video out on Facebook. Right on the video, the live video itself, I posted it. And so if someone took the time to listen to the video, it was about why we're hardwired. Why is it easier for us to um, keep our losses, hold on to the negative? It talks about us being it's difficult, more difficult for us to go from our losses to gains, to transition from our losses to gains, that we hold on to that negative information, negative things that have happened to us, or our perception of those things. So Miss Brenda, if you missed yesterday and if you plan on going back, there'll be a video there, a TEDx video that's a really good one, um, if you'd like to look at it. But we asked you guys to take a look and let us know what your thoughts were about that. So if you did, let us know.
That's right. We want to jump right into it, huh?
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. April 15th. April 15th. The title for today is Jumping to Conclusions. Jumping to Conclusions. And our quote of the day comes from Marion Makeba, who's a folk singer, a Black folk singer. And she says, is interest paid on trouble before it is due. Worry is interest paid on trouble before it is due. That's interesting. Does that bring anything to mind to you, Mom? Just before we start, I feel like there's a lot of depth to that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of what you said a few days ago about when people gamble and they get the money sooner than they needed it in kind of a,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it just kind of, and then some other things it does remind me of before trouble before it's due, right? So I had a friend that told me a long time ago, if you worry about something and it happens just as you thought it would, you've worried for nothing. If you worry about something and it doesn't happen as you thought it would, the outcome is not what you thought it would, you still worried for nothing. So worry is just a form of anxiety to me. It's living in the past, um, or living for a future that's not here, a past that's gone and a future that's not here. What can you really do about that? You can plan
Right.
your best and it still may crumble before you, right? It's not what happens to you, it's how you perceive what happens to you, how you grow through it. Because as we've said, life is going to happen. So why worry about something that you have no control over? Why worry about the rain tomorrow? Um, you have no control. You just get an umbrella or decide to stay at home if it rains and you don't want to get wet. Solution based living, solution based living. Because you cannot control what will happen. You cannot. And if you try to worry about it, if you do worry about it, you're dying. You're dying. It's a slow death. It's a slow death. Been on that side of worry for sure, you guys. Been on that side. And I can tell you it's a slow death. So over
Wow.
to you.
Yeah, it makes me think about like interest is a product of time, right? And so if worry is the interest paid on a trouble before it's due, you're paying interest when you don't have to, right? This is very similar kind of what you said. Like you don't gain interest on a debt until some time has passed between when you took the debt and when you pay the debt. So like the interest, you know, especially if it's compounding, will be different the further along you are than it is right now, right? And if you paid it instantly, you just be paying the principal, right? But if you pay the interest paid early, then you're paying it before you even know that you have it. So I agree. I thought that was a really deep quote. So the quote again is, worry is interest paid on trouble before it is due.
And think about paying interest on trouble.
Yeah, like why would you even take a debt of trouble?
Right.
That's
And pay
interesting.
interest on it.
Yeah. Reminds us of a lot of things that we probably buy and don't need anyway, right?
Yeah.
So that was our quote from Mariam Makeba, the folk singer. And the passage goes, I recently heard about a man about getting to work on time. Each day, he followed the same routine. His alarm went off at 6:30 a.m. He rose briskly, shaved, showered, gulped down his breakfast, brushed his teeth, grabbed his briefcase, got into his car, drove to the nearby ferry, parked his car, rode the ferry across to the downtown business district, ran to his office, marched to the elevator, rode to the seventh floor, and arrived at his desk no later than 8 p.m. He followed the same routine for nearly 10 years. One morning, his alarm failed to go off, and he slept 15 minutes late. When he awoke, he was panic-stricken. He rushed through his shower, nicked himself when he shaved, skipped his breakfast, snatched his briefcase, leaped into his car, sped to the ferry, jumped out of his car, and looked for the ferry. He saw it out of the water a few feet from the dock. He ran down the dock at full speed until he reached the edge of the pier, then lunged out over the water and landed miraculously on the deck of the ferry with a loud thud. The captain rushed down to make sure he was all right and said, "Man, that was a tremendous leap. But if you would have just waited another minute, we would have reached the... You could have walked on." He said, "Man, that was a tremendous leap. But if you would have just waited another minute, we would have reached the dock and you could have walked on." Most time spent worrying is wasted. If you spend time worrying, you will accomplish little. A time management expert asserts that the majority of fears are unnecessary. Of the 8% of the worries that are real and legitimate, 90% revolve around things we cannot influence. So why worry? Learn to spend your time in more productive ways. And that's the passage, y'all. And the quote, or the not the quote, but the affirmation that we read 3 times, one time for you, one time for me, one time for the person that we know you're going to send this to and share this with today on your way. The quote is, "I can't change the past, and I won't worry about the future." Again, I can't change the past, and I won't worry about the future. Let's really let that settle in. I can't change the past, and I won't worry about the future. I like that one. I like that one. I like the stories.
Yeah. So it also made me think about you, Brandon, in high school. Y'all, Brandon would be so late. He wake up and then he it would be like he woke up 2, 3 hours early and he wasn't late. And it used to just fuel me to no end because I'm thinking you're late. You're walking around the house like you got 3, 4 hours to go. And one morning we had like a thing about it, right? And he's like, "I'm already late." Like the end result is I'm late. So, but I'm thinking, okay, there's no need to be. If you could be 15 minutes late rather than 30, the extra, skip in your walk, but you just walk around the house like I got 4 hours to spare, and would have none because he's already late, right? So it made me think about your outlook and your perspective on that. It also made me think about the stories that I heard about 9/11, where some people were delayed. I think someone had to turn around and because there's something about their shoes or something, but they were delayed, so they did not make it to work on time because of things happened that delayed them. Now, in this case, of course, like Brandon did the other day, he overslept, right? So, same
But
with
I
this
rushed.
case.
I promised as soon as I did, I just threw off the covers and I ran as fast to the computer.
Yeah, but even look, like I said yesterday, the lesson in that, like we could feel some
Yeah.
kind of way because some people will be like, shoot, they be worried about what people are thinking, what's happening, and all that. But there was things that came out of that, so we didn't worry about. Even on that day, we didn't worry about he didn't his alarm didn't go off because what has that done? That he will make sure going forward. Oh, something will be triggered in him that will make him say, let me check my phone, make sure it is charging, right?
Yeah.
On my side, I'm going to make sure that I'm always prepared if I have to do it solo, right? Because I could make an excuse, well, nobody's here today, which I did a few days by myself when you were out as well. So we just have to always live in the now. There's going to always be something that, and wow, jumping to conclusions. We need to talk about that one more too, just because of how it ties into this. The
Mm-hmm.
guy says, because his assumption was, I've missed it. I've missed, but the ferry was late too. So that extra 15
Yeah.
minutes of sleep that he got,
Was
it did
his.
it right. Right. It was his. And if he would have just said, you know what, I'm gonna have to take this one. I'll be, chances are I'm gonna be late this morning, but that's okay. Right.
Right.
And imagine what could have happened to him leaping. How many things could have gone wrong? And the guy said, if you'd have just waited, you know. And I have to think that something in him made him miss the fact that it's coming towards me, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's coming
Yeah.
towards me. The worry, like I talked about getting into your door at night when it's dark. Nothing blocking that. Nothing blocking it. Nothing blocking your belief, your faith, your view.
Yeah.
But let somebody chase you and you're trying to get into the door of your house because you're in a state of fear, right? You may not get in
Mm.
as quickly or as thoroughly. It's like the two gentlemen we read about a few days ago who were um, fighting. Well, one decided to fight the stream, the water, and one relaxed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So over to you, Brandon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I jumping to conclusions, like you said, Mom, we need to look at that a little bit closer. So we're jumping to conclusions. If you think about what he did, he jumped. He had to jump onto the ferry, right? It says he, if we look back, it says he jumped, he leaped into his car, sped to the ferry landing, jumped out of his car and looked for the ferry. And he saw it and then, ran down and then he lunged out over the water. So it became this dramatic event, this draining, probably emotionally draining situation. And I think sometimes we're expected to host anxiety because that's what people do, if that makes sense. You're supposed to be anxious right now because you're late. That's how I felt, when I was late to school, right? Like, I felt like you were telling me, you're supposed to be anxious, You're
You're supposed
supposed
to skip
huh?
your breakfast like the guy did here. He skipped
Yeah.
he
And,
skipped
and,
his breakfast and everything.
and I'm
Brandon would
like,
sit down to the
man,
table and eat like
every
lady late.
frosted flake. I was naming every frosted flake, seeing what country it looked like. I'm telling like,
And
that's just the way
I
I am.
would be furious.
No, I'm sorry. But it just, it was strange to me. I was like, well, I'm already late. They're not
Right.
on the record isn't going to show Brandon was 30 minutes late or he was 5 minutes late. It's just going to show that I was late. So why make my day? Why host any more anxiety or drama than I need to? Now when I
Why
get to
pay
school,
interest on the late, huh? Why pay
yeah,
interest on being late, huh?
yeah, I don't believe in interest. I don't. But yeah, absolutely. Why pay interest on it when it's late? Um. So and with that, we now are bringing baggage to our places and spaces.
Oh wow.
We're now bringing like emotional poison that we built up because just like interest, it's creating money out of nothing. There's nothing there. You go grab time, right? So you're if you start off with a brick of gold or 2 bricks of gold and I give you one and give you interest on it and I got the only 2 bricks of gold out here, what are you going to create that makes me think that there's more than there really is? Oh, you're going to go create some dollars and promissory notes. Oh, okay, cool. So that's not really attached to the gold. It's interest. So I don't think it's right for us to carry a debt that is more than what was actually already given. And so in that situation, him having to do all these dramatized things creates emotional poison that he then takes into spaces and makes the opportunity, even though that might not be his fault, to where whoever takes on this emotional poison onto their day. But now you have brought emotional poison into a space, and people, whether they do or not now, because of you in your situation, have the opportunity to take on that. So now you walk into a place of business, or your to your job, and you got an attitude, or you're in a fret, or you just come in, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, like there's an anxious feeling about it. And as human beings, like I said, when we start to whisper, other people start to whisper. If we get louder, other people get louder to match that level, because we all want to be together. We're a communal, a tribal being. People who are stranded, by themselves sometimes seem to go crazy. You remember the movie where he's like, Wilson, with the volleyball, when he got stranded on an island. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but it can make you go crazy. So we have a likeness to rise up or go down to the level of the people that we're around. That's why you have to be careful by those people that are close to you in your circle. You're the average of the 5 people, they say, that you spend the most time with. So you're an average of the 5 emotions that you spend the most time with, right? That's the feeling that you give people when you walk into a room. And people feel that whether you say it or not. So what are you carrying? What are you not releasing? Because of some depression, which is you were being worried about something in the past, or anxiety, which is you being worried about something in the future, neither of which exists. The only thing that exists is the ever-present now. And everything else is our perception of what was the ever-present or what will be the ever-present, of which both we don't know the truth about or have control over. We have our viewpoint of the past and our perspective of the past, but the truth may be deeper than that. We may not know. And we have our perception and our projection of the future, but truth be told, God is the best of planners. We plan, but he's the best of planners. So things don't always go our way or how we see it. So who are we to be attached to either the past or the future? By giving up some of the sovereignty of the ever-present now, by looking at the past and the future and putting too much stock in them, we give up some sovereignty that was owed and that was due, the principle, to the ever-present now. Does that make sense? That's how I see
It
it.
it does, Brandon. Also, jumping to conclusions. Um, most of most of the things that we think we have an understanding of is nothing. Why is my battery? Oh, you guys, hold on. Brandon, take it over. I need to plug my computer up.
Okay, no problem at all. I was getting into it. I was in the zone listening to you. Jumping to
Okay, I'm
conclusion.
ready.
Okay, that
I'm ready.
title though.
I'm sorry. My I didn't plug my computer again.
Oh, it's
So
all
so
good.
Brand, I'm back. Sorry about that, you
Okay,
guys. Didn't
nice,
plug
no
my
problem.
computer up. Um, so I haven't learned that lesson because I did that the other day. When you were MIA, I did that the other day, but it was right there.
Oh,
But anyway, so jumping to conclusion, most of the things that we think we have a perception of or an understanding of is nothing. Like what it really is not what you think, because what we think about things comes from our very own perspective and perception, right? We might think, oh, well, this person is not calling me for this reason, or they didn't speak to me for this reason. We come up with all these things, right, that are from our internalization, right? But if you heard the story, and for some reason I'm reminded of the lady that I used to work with that I talked about. People would say that she's mean and she doesn't speak back to you, and all these things. And I just kept speaking to her. I'd get on the elevator, talk to her, and sometimes most times she said nothing. And then one day she came and she said, I want to apologize to you. You spoke to me and I didn't say anything back to you. And this was so out of the norm. But what she had missed, in my perception, is I've spoken to you for a very long time now, and you probably 99% of the time you didn't say anything back. But y'all, I do believe she was so consumed because she was not what we had summed her up to be. She was just this kind of, she worked in her mind, I believe, all the time. And like, so you could be saying something to her, kind of like the grandbabies when they're tuned in, Brandon, to the
Yeah.
what's the whatever this thing they watch now, astronaut,
Oh yeah.
astronauts,
I cannot. Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. You could talk to them, you could say something to them, and you have to really sometimes just turn it off for them, for to get them to hear and see you, because they're so tuned into it. So sometimes, you guys, we jump to conclusions that we need more understanding about, right? So when I'm offended, it's easy. It was easy to say it was their fault. Now when I feel something which is getting littler and littler, as the kids will say, that something offends me, but I still try to internalize it, because if it offends you, that means it's already a sore spot for you. That something's
Yeah.
already in your head about this thing, right? So I want to share these with you, jumping to conclusion. Just some quotes. To succeed, jump as quickly at opportunities as you do at conclusions. So jump as quickly at opportunities as you do at conclusions, right? Do it as quickly. Even truth, jump as quickly to truth or at truth as you do a lie. Because we'll take the lie and we talked about that yesterday, we'll carry it, divide it times two, and multiply it again to get the answer we want based on our perception. So to succeed, jump as quickly at opportunities as you do at conclusions. Life is the art of drawing sufficient conclusions from insufficient premises.
Hmm.
Nature's music is never over. I love this one. Nature's music is never over. Her silences are pauses, not conclusions. Why? Because there's more. Nature's going to always give us more, whether we see it or not. The sun rises, the sun sets. But what if one day it doesn't? What would be your conclusion? It'll be back tomorrow. It'll do it tomorrow. Something's wrong. What's wrong? We don't like to think. So we come up with these conclusions that fit us. We don't like to grow. So we come up with these conclusions that fits us, that makes us feel safe. Because to unravel yourself means that you have to know who you really are. You have to be willing to learn who you really are, and then unlearn to be who you were created to be. So just as we learn, there's an unlearning to that brings some that makes you feel uncomfortable. So jumping to conclusions. How often have you jumped to a conclusion, learned learned that it was an incorrect conclusion, and you made you judged too quickly? And what did you do with that information? What did you do with it? Did you say it's you, it's you, it's you? Or did you say, if truth be told, it is me? Over to you, Brandon.
Interesting. You I want to shout out somebody that just came in my comments. A friend of mine from Perth, Australia, Canary, uh, reminds me of this book. She speaks about life-changing books and things like that. And Joe Dispenza is one of the books that I believe she's read from. You know, you and I, you know, you actually introduced me to Joe Dispenza. And one of the things that he speaks about is the fact that we get into these automatic responses, or these automatic reactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of fear-based mentality And since we have that, we respond or we react accordingly. We don't respond. And we're used to certain emotions. Our neural pathologies and our sentiments and actions and deeds are sometimes just what we're used to. So I think it's very important inside of this passage where it says that the man did this for 10 years. For 10 years, he had the exact same schedule. Everything was pinpoint precise. Everything he did was on time. When he woke up at 6:30 a.m., he he rose briskly, shaved, showered, gulped down his breakfast, brushed his teeth, grabbed his briefcase, got into his car, drove to the nearby ferry. He did everything the same. He got to work no later than 8 a.m. and he followed that same routine. The one day that something strange happened, he perceived, and it was false. You know, either we don't know whether or not he was actually 15 minutes late.
Uh-oh, we lost him. Oh, he's back.
We good?
You're good.
Okay. So I was saying, I don't know whether or not he was just late as far as his alarm didn't go off or he didn't set it. And then he just rose and assumed that since the alarm didn't go off, I'm late. Or if the ferry itself was also late. So he might have been on time. And so I thought about that too.
That's
But the one
interesting, Brandon,
time that,
because he did it for all those years. All those
right,
years. And then one day, for whatever reason, and that changed everything. Like now he would be the one that should get up and act like, oh, it's all cool, because he did it for 10 years, right?
right,
Or
right,
longer. He would be,
right,
it should have, you would think it'd be like no sweat. But
right.
you would have thought that he had been late every day for 10 years, and oh man, this is the last draw for them. But if he'd be one of those ones, if he was an hour late, they'd be like, oh, something must be wrong. He's
Right.
coming, because his
Exactly.
consistency, right? But what if that one time he would have been late, and his job forgot about all the 10 years that he's never been late, and said,
That's
oh,
what we do sometimes.
that's what we do. Right.
Like
Right.
we don't remember, like when we think of people, do you think just random people that have been in your life, your relationships, is the first thing when they come to mind, do you think of the bad? Do you think of the hard situations or the tough situations? Do you think about the worst qualities of the time that they pissed you off or the time that they said something out of turn? You know, or do you think about their good qualities and the best things about them? You meet someone, do they start at 100%, you know, as far as like in your mind, as far as them being a human being and their potential for greatness, their potential for being an inspiration in your life, or you guys having some type of symbiotic relation? Or do you think, is this person here for ulterior motives? Are they lying to me right now? Are you a overly critical person? Do you bring emotional poison to the situation that you're in, into the spaces that you're in? And I'm not saying be gullible, right? I'm not trying to draw these parallels and paradoxes to say go out there and be gullible. I'm saying be smart, but I'm saying trust, but you can verify later. Like there can be a verification purpose, but in this case, where the man was going to work every single day on the same schedule at the same time for 10 years, do you really think? Do you really think a good manager, a good employer, a good supervisor, whoever is his quote unquote, superior at the workspace, is going to say to him after 10 years of being on time, probably longer than the time that superior has been there in most cases, do you think he's going to be upset? Do you think that for 15 minutes he's going to be in jeopardy of losing his? If he is, that's a tragedy. If he is, that's not a positive workspace. If he does get fired for being 15 minutes late after 10 years, then that's probably not the space that was most conducive for his growth. And oftentimes when things happen in our lives, they are happening for us and not to us. We have to remember that and carry those principles over from the previous days. They're happening for us and not to us. So waking up 15 minutes late that day, our first thought shouldn't be, oh no, everything I gotta, that rushing anxiety, but rather, okay, I'm gonna do what I do every day because I am who I am, regardless of what changes around me. Am I moved by whatever winds and fads and things come in, or am I sure about who I am, and am I in the driving seat for the journey of my life, for my growth, for my path of transformation, or my path and my trajectory of success and my goals and the things that I want to accomplish? Am I in the driver's seat, or is popular culture in the driver's seat, or is this person, have we displaced or given up again that sovereignty and displaced our own autonomy, our own ability, our own potential? And I think what that does is it makes it safe, right? It makes it something that we can get very used to. It makes it something that we can become comfortable and even complacent in, right? Because growth is change. And what people fear is what they don't know. And when you've done something for so long, and then now something changes, now all of a sudden you don't know. And so it changed from he rose brisk, shaved, showered, gulped down his breakfast, brushed his teeth, these very simple and direct things, to when he was late after 15 minutes, when his alarm didn't go off after 10 years, he rushed through the shower, nicked himself when he shaved, like he cut himself when he shaved, skipped his breakfast. So now he doesn't have energy and fuel to go throughout his day. His body is at a deficit. And what does that do? That's going to raise your cortisol levels, which is what? Stress. You're adding more stress to your day, to yourself. You're putting interest. You are literally paying interest on trouble before it's due. Why did you purchase trouble in the first place? Then that trouble that you purchased was the assumption that somehow now you are different, but you have to conduct yourself differently because of this small change. That everything about you has to change because the routine has been altered. That's what happens when we're attached to outcomes and not attached to our intention and what we personally can do. And all you can do is all you can do at every moment. My coach, Jason Aldridge, says in fighting, he says, I may not be 100% every day. He said, I might not be 100% every day or every round. But if I got 80% that day, you can get 100% of that 80%. He's like, if all I got in me is 50% of fighting me today, man, I'm telling you, you ain't getting 49. You might get 50 and a half.
Right. So the glass is always half full, right?
Exactly. And it's
Always
based
half
on
full.
what I have as opposed to what I don't have.
Right.
So I'm always going to be able to give 100% of whatever I have that day. And I'm not judging myself based on what my 100% was previous.
Right.
So if my 100%, if I had 90% the days before, and today I only have 85, I'm not going to judge myself based on my yesterday, my 90% yesterday. I'm going to say, because now I've given away some of the power of right now.
Right.
I've given away some of the intention and the resource that I have within myself of my intention and attention to something that doesn't exist anymore or hasn't happened yet. So it loses its status and its impact as of right now. Canary said, "What book are you reading from?" We are reading from Daily Motivations for African American Success. I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link after the show. This is a older book, but there's an interesting story with this book. I don't know if we've spoken about this story recently. I know we did in the first 5 or 6 episodes,
Mm.
that this book was a book that was given to me
Oh, yeah.
when my mother and father-in-law were moving out of a house. Their family was moving out of a house years ago. I mean, I'm talking like, this has got to be 7, 8 years ago. And this was one of the books that, they were going through as they were packing, and was just left. And they're not African American, but the book is titled Daily Motivations for African American Success. And what I've discovered is that you don't have to be African American to take some of these principles, but the lens by which the principles and the descriptions and just some of the references are coming through the lens of the African American story, and has references that are based in African American culture. So each motivation begins with words of wisdom from distinguished African Americans, celebrated African Americans, but you don't have to be African American to benefit from it. So
Hey,
definitely
Brandon,
get this
so
book. Mm-hmm.
definitely get it. I want to comment on we were speaking about the glass being half full versus half empty. If you're gonna I'm gonna look at this like this. Some days we wake up and we pour too much. We get the glass is too big for what we're wanting to pour, right? So if I'm just gonna be taking, I don't know, a pill or something, and I need a little glass of water, then don't get that big one, right? When you say if I'm 80% today, you're gonna get 100% of my 80. That's powerful because we have to
Right.
be willing to give ourselves some grace, and we're not if we wake up every morning with a full glass every day of our life, how would we continue to grow and learn? And in most cases, how would we depend on God? Like how you do with every when you're in your winning season, how do you keep praying? Do you keep seeking? Or do you stop because it's all good now? You only go to God when, well, it's me. Where are you? Things are not going my way. This is happening to me. This is happening to me. Because if that's the only time you go to God, right? Have you jumped to some conclusions that you now don't need him? It'll always be this way. So it's like we were saying, people can do all these things for you. And then you can ask them to borrow money 100 times over, 10 years. And they say, yes, 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 give it to you, give it to you, give it to you. Then one day you come to them and they say, no, I can't do it right now. And you will jump to a conclusion about them and forget the 100 times that they gave without even asking, is everything okay with you? Because they just may have hit a financial bad spot themselves.
Right.
They may be dealing with something, but see, it's about you. You make it about you. And you see yourself not as your brother's brother or brother's sister, even maybe if they're their keeper, but you want to be kept. So we have to give ourselves some grace. And I want to share one more thing. The book of Matthew, there's a lot there on worrying. But this one, do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go, whether you're late or early, you guys. It doesn't say that, but I'm saying whether you arrive early or late, do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Therefore, do not be anxious. And anxious is it's just worry. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. That goes right back to worry is interest paid on trouble before it's due. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Life happens. Life happens.
Wow. I like in the and I know we got to wrap up here soon. Where it says most time spent worrying is wasted. If you spend time worrying, you will accomplish little. A time management expert asserts that the majority of fears are unnecessary. Of the 8% of the worries that are real and legitimate, 90% revolve around things we cannot influence. So why worry? Learn to spend your time in more productive ways. So imagine you have a certain bandwidth in a certain capacity of thought, right? Let's say let's keep it at 100%, right? And you can, the more thought and the more intensity that you give to a particular thought, the more you can critically think about the opportunities, the solutions, the inner workings of that, right? You can better understand it and not just know it, right? There's a difference between knowing something, that's a factual thing, and understanding something, not just knowing it at its surface level, but knowing its inner workings, what it's composed of, how it relates and is relative to other things and other ideas. So you have one capacity, one bandwidth, and you allocate, let's say, 40% to just everyday things, right? Like the set schedule, right? And the other 60% you can add it, that you can put on something, is your own, your own to give, right? That's the space you have left. It's like your computer having its old backup memory, and then it has these temporary files that it creates every day. So you have 60%, and are you going to give more to worry? Are you going to give energy to the present? Are you going to give energy to the future? But every bit of energy that you give and thought and intention in the past or present takes away from the ever-present now. So you'll accomplish very little in that moment, which is all that counts, is all that you can control. That's all that you can do. All that you can do is all that you can do. I think that's the way that it sums up. All that you can do right now is all that you can do. You can't do anything in the future right now. If anything, you should have a positive disposition and expectation of the future. And when you do, you can release that worry. You can release that anxiety, which is being your perception and your sense of yourself is in the future. When your sense of self is in the future, that's anxiety. When your sense of self is in the past, that's depression. So we have to figure out where's the equilibrium where we have not displaced ourselves, our awareness of ourselves, because our physical bodies are right here in the ever present. But our minds, our perception, our consciousness can be displaced. And if it is it displaced in a positive way? I'm not saying all displacement of consciousness is bad. In meditation, your consciousness can be not displaced, but placed purposefully. Like my cousin Will said, are you doing it? People say, I'm standing on business. Are you standing on purpose? Right? Are you intentional with the placement, displacement of your consciousness? Or is it your reptilian mind that I was talking about previously, where it's just your reactions? It's just your instincts. It's just your cortisol-based reactions, as opposed to your responses, your thoughtful, conscious, aware responses. And I think that makes the difference in our experience on our in our daily life. That has an impact on our quality of life. What's your quality control of your quality of life? So if you want to displace your consciousness from the exact moment right now, then when you do it, have a positive outlook on the future. Say, okay, well, I'm going to vision my future. I'm going to envision a great future. I'm going to make a vision board, for example, right? I'm going to positively project something that I want to accomplish or something that I want to see in my life by creating some physical thing for it, or just thinking. That's a positive projection, right? Or if I want to be reflective over my life or over a situation that happened, I'm not attaching an emotion to it. I'm reflecting. That's a positive displacement. But to not do it with a conscious intent, I think that's where we lead to a sliding scale or a wormhole of either depression or compounding anxiety. So try to be present. And if you do displace it, be intentional. Okay. So that's kind of what I have, Mom. But
So,
back to
Brandon,
you.
okay, I'll work to bring it to a close. I want to give some information on, give a bit more on worry, and then this topic today has taken me back to burdens, right? As I mentioned a few days ago, while at my family reunion, one of my cousins started singing that song, and it just registered different, and she started replacing, like, I'm doing better, since I love better, since I've laid my burdens down. So what if this gentleman this morning, and what if when we get up and we have these kind of days and mornings, right? If we looked at it as this is my burden today. I'm laying it before you, God, and I'm going to move about my day as I would have. Because what if, after 10 years, what if that alarm clock not going off was for your benefit? And you're trying to get ahead of it in the future time, right? So, what if it was that way? It says worry is to give way to anxiety or unease, allows one's mind to dwell on difficulty or troubles, right? Give way to anxiety or unease. It allows one's mind to dwell is that word, on difficulty or troubles. The video I put out yesterday, I'll put out again today on this one because it'll help you there as well. It says worry refers to the thoughts, images, emotions, and actions. Doesn't that sound like the back of this book?
Yeah.
Worry refers to the thoughts, images, emotions, and actions of a negative nature in a repetitive, uncontrollable manner that results from a proactive cognitive risk analysis made to avoid or solve anticipated potential threats and their potential consequences. I need to put that one out. That's a lot. I'm going to put that one in the post as well. So think of it that way, and burden, you guys. Again, if you get up some days and you say you feel like my glass is half full today, change the glass. Change a glass that the water will fit in perfectly. I'm so amazed when I'm pouring something and I save leftovers, or if I'm putting some leftovers and I pick a bowl that, interestingly enough, I get so much out of this. What I have fits perfectly, almost too perfect, but it doesn't overflow, and it's not too big and it's not too small. It's just right. Or if I go and there's a lemonade or something in the refrigerator that I bought, and I pick the glass out of the cabinet and I pour it, and it doesn't overflow, but it's so close to the rim. In those moments, I think of how perfect God is. They are reminders for me. But I had to get here. I had to get here to this place. And how I got here is by doing things like this, praying while I'm loading the dishwasher, praying while I'm unloading it, praying while I'm putting clothes in the washer, transferring them to the dryer. When I wake up to go to the restroom at night, thank you, God. I've made it halfway through this night. I woke up, sound mind, knowing I have to use the restroom. I can get up and go and come back, lay down and go right back to sleep without worry, anxiety about tomorrow. You have to be intentional. You have to lay down your burden, and burdens come in many forms, you guys. It could be my alarm clock didn't go off, and you can skip breakfast and meet death. So I will post that video. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brandon. And I think I'm done unless you say something that triggers me. If you want to be
Triggers you?
done, you
Okay.
better not say it.
No, I got a little bit more. So
Okay.
I need well, I'm gonna read a comment. Canary said, I need your mom to be my mom also.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have a beautiful mother, y'all. Like, I mean, yeah. No,
Okay. Tell him I'm looking for some new sons and daughters.
okay. I'll tell her. I'll tell her.
No, y'all. There's enough of me, y'all. I promise y'all. I really want to start a hire grandma business, but I'd be tired because I'd want to be the grandma for everybody because I just want it to be right. But you tell that person I'm here.
I
I'm
will. Well,
here.
they can
I
see you,
love.
so it's. But one of the things that I thought about was, so if that man being 15 minutes late would make him lose his job or risk his employment or his status at there in any kind of way,
Mm.
what if that was the opportunity for him to leave a toxic environment? And what he perceived as his trouble was actually his gift, right? Was his opportunity. Because now think about the asset that he has. He's been going to work on time, on the same schedule for 10 years, for a decade, right? When he leaves, let's say he goes to find another job. Of course, he's going to look for a job either similar
Yeah.
or better than his last. So imagine him going in for the interview. In the interview, say, well, what was your experience at your last place of employment? And he says, well, I was a hard worker. I showed up every single day on time, and it's been documented for 10 years. And he speaks about, what he did. And then in the end, he said, and after 10 years, I was 15 minutes late and I was fired.
Mm.
Now that the new employer, the person that's looking to hire, is like, wow, what an asset that they lost.
Mm.
There's someone that's been coming on time. Half of the battle in MMA, when I'm practicing and fighting and things like that, half of the battle is showing up. That's half of the fight.
Mm.
When you don't feel like going to practice, when you have all these excuses that you can make, showing up is half the battle. There's days that I've gone to training, I promise you, I've been so tired. I just didn't want to do anything, or I was in a different state of being that might have been conducive for having a good practice, a good training session. But I
Mm.
show up anyway. I still hold myself accountable. I might not rush, as you said, Mom, but I show up anyway. And those are sometimes the practices and the training sessions that I grow the most. Why? Because I'm uncomfortable. And you don't grow in places of comfort. The cocoon, the butterfly only comes out of the cocoon once it's too big for it, once it's outgrown it. So that man being 15 minutes late may have been the creator, God, the big conscious, then its way of leading him to something greater. So like I said before, things happen for you and not to you. And even if they didn't, let's play a contrarian. Even if things happen to you and not for you, statistically speaking, just by assuming the best of every single moment and situation, you positively impact your trajectory and your potential and your probability of success.
Yeah.
So just by believing, just by the changing of your consciousness and awareness of the situation and perception of the situation, you have now changed your quality of life, your reality, your human experience. Right? The mind doesn't know the difference when you're imagining playing the piano or when you're actually playing the piano. It's still the same neural circuitry. Your mind doesn't know the difference when you're imitating shooting 500 free throws or 500 threes. It is as if you're actually doing it.
Hey,
Your
Brandon,
mind remembers that.
I don't want your
Oh,
Instagram's gonna cut off in a minute.
yeah, it will.
I wanted them to hear the affirmation.
Okay, well, we're gonna end it, y'all, because I'm gonna sit here and have a whole family reunion with y'all today. Um, Today, our 75th consecutive show, Reading Daily Motivations for African American Success by Dennis Kimbro. Get the book if you can. We end the show the same way every day by reading the title, reading a quote from a distinguished African American from our history, and skipping the passage, but reading the affirmation at the bottom 3 times. 1 time for me, 1 time for you, and a 3rd time for the person that you're going to send this to, or the person sitting in the back of the room that's listening. So the title for today is Jumping to Conclusions. Jumping to Conclusions. And if you were with us for the reading of the passage, you know why it's titled that now. And our quote from the distinguished African American was Marion Makeba, a folk singer. And the quote was, "Worry is interest paid on trouble before it's due." Worry is interest paid on trouble before it's due. And our quote and affirmation, not our quote, but our affirmation for the day that we read 3 times is, "I can't change the past, and I won't worry about the future." Now say that out loud. I can't change the past, and I won't worry about the future. You guys can see it at the bottom of your screen going across, I think this way. You know, it says the affirmation of the day: I can't change the past. If you said it out loud, say it internally this time. If you said it internally, say it out loud this time. I can't change the past, and I won't worry about the future. That is liberating. Free yourself. You can't change the past, so don't worry about the future. Don't worry about either one. There's nothing to worry about. You're here, you're present, you have the day. Go seize it. So that's it for today, folks. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, wherever you are. Convert that time to you. We love you. We appreciate you for rocking with us. I do want to say one thing, though. Shout out to Brenda, who had allergies. She said, "I have allergies." Y'all, we pray and send you positive and healing affirmation. So we all, if we all think in our head like that you're going to be healed, we're praying for you. We're sending that out, and get you some honey, some black seed oil, take a warm bath, and relax. You're not missing anything. If you do have to stay in, you're not missing anything. Whatever is for you is for you. Whatever is yours is yours. So shout out to everybody in the comments. Love y'all. Mom, if you got anything else?
I'm going to put the video out
Okay.
about, holding on to, it's easier to hold on about, negativity. So I'll put that out on this one as well. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Y'all rock with us in the morning. Share this video. Get the book. Love y'all. Peace.
Love y'all. Peace.